Welcome to the April 18th, 2022 edition of Bourbon-n-Blockchain. Tonight, we are joined by Draco, Mr. Maverick, and Myron. Draco, how was your weekend?
Weekend was great. Thanks for asking. It was a great Easter with the family and the kids, and couldn't have asked for anything better. Maybe a little bit warmer weather would have been nice, but you take what you can get, right?
Yeah. Maverick, how'd you spend your Easter?
Doing nothing. Honestly, it's just a busy time of the year for us. The wife was working. We all kind of had things going on, so we didn't really do anything special. Just hung out when we could, and yeah, that was about it.
You having any cocktails tonight?
Not tonight, man. Nope, not tonight.
What about you, Myron? How was your Easter?
Easter is good, and what I went to when I was in church. Europa had a public-private sale, whatever they call it. I missed it, so there goes my tokens, man. They rugged me.
Hey, at least you had a good reason. You got to go to church on Easter. What Draco? What are you seeing in this Bitcoin market?
You know what? It's honestly it's crazy. It's something to pay attention to. Obviously, if you're in the market, because a lot of things track Bitcoin. But I read a bunch of different things from different people. Like, so if you follow people that are all about technical analysis, they were saying that we had an oversold market. Everything was oversold, and we needed to cool down, and we were going to have a retracement. You've had other people that are saying that we're going to bounce off of the 200-day moving average and stay in this zone. And then you've got other people that are individuals that are talking about the macro economics of Bitcoin and saying, well, this could be proportionate to people following trades based on the equities market and the futures market. And then also you have other people that are just riding sentiment and saying that part of this volatility is based on people paying their taxes, and that the 18th was the last day to pay your taxes. So me personally, I think that all of those things are in play. I think all of those things should be considered. I don't think one thing only kind of like drives the market, but I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. There's just all these different things that kind of come into play with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general. And today we saw a swing of $100 billion. So at one
Wow.
point today, yeah, at one point today we we're at 1.8 trillion dollars, and then it went to 1.9. So right now we're around 1.9 trillion dollars in in total market cap for crypto. So $100 billion in a day, that's a pretty good swing, and I think that's small for what we'll see in the future.
Myron, what
Are
do you
you
think? You look at the
are you
charts.
have
You love looking at
are you
these.
controlling the charts, Smokey,
What's
or
that?
is Draco? Who is controlling the charts?
Me.
Can you pull up SPY?
Um. Yeah. What's spy?
SP 500,
Oh,
but it's the
okay.
futures. So SPY.
See if I can find that
We'll show you this is so crazy today. No, that's it. SPY, the first
right
one.
here. Okay,
Yep. And if you can do launch chart.
got it.
So today SPY like pumped in the morning. It had a huge drop. Then it has a huge pump. Then it dropped. If you go to if you click on the chart on the top right, top where it says D, if you can change that to like 15, that go up a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, right here
No,
or right here.
up the up right there. Change it to like 15 minutes or 30 minutes.
All right.
So if you
Yeah, there you
if you look
go.
at that, so it goes way down, huge pump, drop back down, then it like pumps up after market, after hours. Like this is just so stupid, man. Like this is SP 500 and it's moving. It's just insane. And if you look at it, it's the top is like the top, the bottom never really broke the bottom. Just like you're saying, Draco, that swing in Bitcoin, I think the similar swing is happening in the general markets right now. We're
Hmm.
just huge drops down, huge pumps up, and it's so confusing. Like what really is going on, and a lot of the things, even this whole weekend, right? Bitcoin kind of stayed flat. All the crypto kind of stayed flat. Usually, you have some decent movement up or down, but I think people are just in general just not sure. Even I think the big funds not sure where the market's gonna go. And that means we're not really even sure. And this is it's interesting times, man.
So do you think we're going into a bull market, or do you see it as a bear market right now?
See, the thing is, I'm bearish for the market, like the traditional markets, but I'm bullish for crypto. But the thing is, crypto follows the traditional markets, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we do a decoupling. Like that would be the
Yeah,
best
that'll
thing
be
that could
great.
happen is
Yeah.
where, the traditional market is going to do what it does and it most likely is going to go down and the crypto market's going to say see ya and go in the other direction.
Do you think that'll happen though? If institutions, and I don't know if it's happened yet, but if we start getting institutional investors into Bitcoin, won't it be more tied to the S&P 500 than ever before?
I think it depends on how how retailers and industries view Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. If they look at it as the same type of investment strategy and then that they're tied to the same market, then yeah, that could happen. But I think that people are going to realize that cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, is a hedge against inflation and against the US dollar a little bit. And they're going to try to take their money out and park it in an asset that's not going to be deflating immensely while they have their cash reserves in that asset. And those assets are going to be things like, gold and silver, and potentially properties. But I think property values are also going to take a big hit because that market's been overheated. So what else is going to be something that's not inflationary, something that's not increasing in amount, but is also increasing in value. And as an overall market, it's actually decreasing in amount that is available, and that would be Bitcoin.
All right. With that, we'll move on to a protocol that institutional investors are probably not in, and that's Axiomfinity, which is a Pokemon-like game, the most popular P2E game on blockchain. So they were recently hacked and lost $625 million, and now there's a report today that, or a couple days ago, it came out that North Korea is responsible for this hack. So my question is, when a foreign country robs America or American citizens, what should a government do? How should a government respond? Because in the grand scheme of things, $625 million isn't a lot of money, but at the same time, we've entered this age where foreign governments can start robbing American citizens. So my question is, what do you guys think the response should be? We'll start with you, Mr. Maverick.
Well, first of all, Smokey, I'm hesitant to believe 100% what the headline reads, because it does read very, very much that this was North Korea and it was an intentional attack. I don't know if that's true. Honestly, we're probably being hand-fed information that they're willing to share, but probably not all of it. I mean, this is a big exploit. And I know in the whole scheme of things, 625 million probably isn't a lot, but when you tie North Korea's name to it, that puts a whole different spin on it, right? So I think there were two individuals, if I remember correctly, that they've kind of tracked this down to. But how that correlates with North Korea as a whole, I'm just not sure. I don't know what to believe, and I'm real hesitant to read into it too deeply. I do know that we've been here recently, witnessing a lot of hacks across DeFi as a whole, right? And so this is one more example of we need to tighten up as as a function within the crypto communities. Security is becoming more and more relevant, right? It's not just about audits. I mean, there's a lot of these groups that don't even have security teams. I mean, real security teams, to be able to prevent these types of things from happening. So they call it a digital battlefield. I don't know if that's really what it is, but I can tell you one thing, that it will become a digital battlefield as soon as the real money flows in, unless there's other steps taken to prevent it in the future.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, and I agree a lot of times we do get fake news or disinformation in these headlines. I mean, I feel like we have enough reasons to not like North Korea. So part of me thought this was true when I saw that, but it's always possible that it's just propaganda. We haven't had a negative headline against North Korea in a while, so maybe they saw this as an opportunity to meet some political end. So yeah, you always got to keep that in mind. Myron, what do you think?
Is that the picture that was took immediately after they got the hack off?
It looks like it.
You know how North Korea is one of the biggest consumer of these alcohol, like Hennessy and all these brands that's really banned for the normal people in the country. But I just want to say, Smokey said how we feel about a foreign country robbing us. But how about our country robbing us, man? I just did taxes, and I got robbed, man. And what about all this printing money that U.S. has been doing? In serious talk, that's been leading to this insane inflation. So, this I think the 625 million, like you said, man, it's it's a lot. I think it's still a decent amount of money in the grand scheme of things. I guess if you talk about in country, it's not that much. But this is pretty crazy because if I'm not correct, I may be mistaking the hack with some other hack that happened this week. But this, I think, is a flash loan hack. I think they took out $1 billion worth of, flash loans, which you need huge collaterals for, and did some voting thing. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's like some voting thing on Axiomfinity, gave them power, or somehow they took it. But whoever did this has serious capital behind them, and it's not just like individual doing it. It's not one of those hacks where they found a back door or something and took the money. And so it is believable if North Korea did it, they would have that capital. But then they come back, it's like, what is the US gonna do? What would they do? I don't think there's gonna be any retaliation on this.
Yeah, so are you saying that somebody took a flash loan out to gain more power under their DAO system, like more voting power, and then they were able to like change the protocol somehow to
I think either it's for this one or for the other hacks that happened this week. But I'm pretty sure it's this one because I heard someone said the loan they took out was like $1 billion worth, which would make you think that it's going to be related to this one.
Okay. Draco, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that, my initial gut reaction to your question was, what is the U.S. going to do, right? And I have to say, we have to make a decision, right? Do we want, the U.S. government to get involved in something like that, right? Do we want them to be heavily regulated in this aspect, or to be able to protect investors? If they create a different agency or head of government that would protect consumers in this event, right? I could maybe see that, but I don't see them getting involved in anything like this because it's like the wild, wild west. So I think that we kind of have to, to be honest with you, I think as a crypto space, we need to do better. And I think that does start with security. So security is everybody's responsibility. That goes down to the individual retail investor like you and me, and everybody that's listening. And that also goes for industries and institutional investors and the people that are making these projects. So, like, for example, I'm sure Michael Saylor doesn't have all of his Bitcoin sitting on an open ledger on MetaMask, right? You would assume that he has very good security for his cryptocurrency because they have the largest single holding in crypto outside of Satoshi Nakamoto. So I think that would be very important to have security. But at the same time, these projects that we're giving money to as investors, right? We need to have a higher standard for them to protect these assets, because at what point are we going to say enough's enough? We're not going to invest in these projects that are going to allow money or funds to be taken from us, right? So I think that, as a whole, as a cryptocurrency, economy, with all of us being involved in that community, I think we need to put security a higher standard.
Yeah, I agree. It always starts with security and taking care, protecting your own stuff. And normally, I don't want the government involved in most of crypto stuff. But I feel like when a foreign country, attacks U.S. citizens, like that's like the one justification where I think the government should get involved. I don't know who you send after them though. I mean, it'd have to be a military, and really, we're going to end up probably spending more on the retaliation than what they stole, right? So they stole 625 million. If you get the military involved, it's probably going to cost, I don't know, 3 times that. I mean, I'm just guessing here, So yeah, at the end of the day, I agree. I think security is, your own personal security is the best way to prevent this stuff.
Draco talked about Michael Saylor with his Bitcoin. I'm just imagining him like pulling up Robinhood. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, I got 100,000 Bitcoin out here."
Yeah. So next
Yeah.
topic. Were you gonna say something, Maverick?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not just an attack on the U.S., right? There's people that are invested in Axie across the world, so I think it adds a layer of complexity. And kind of getting back to your original question, Smokey, that's probably another reason I would find it difficult to believe that they would, we would see any action around trying to track these things down and force some sort of a payback or whatever. It just seems highly unlikely.
Yeah, it said in the article actually that some Ethereum wallet related to North Korea was added to the sanctions list. So they did something, right? I don't know how they enforced that, but there is a sanctioned Ethereum wallet. So there you go.
That fixes it.
Yeah, exactly. So one of our favorite people to talk about on the show is Elon Musk. We're all Elon Musk fans here. The latest update on the Elon Twitter saga is a company called Apollo is now involved. Apollo, I never heard of them until today, but they're worth $400 to $500 billion, and they own Yahoo, actually. And so the New York Times and New York Post are reporting that they both plan on working with Musk. So my question is, do you think Apollo will push Elon over the finish line? And are the stars aligning that Elon closes this deal on 420? We'll start with you, Byron.
So I had to look why they had to, the recent drama with this. So basically what Twitter did is they did a poison pill. I looked it up. Basically it means whenever someone gets to like 15% or 20% or whatever they decide amount of shares with the company, they can do the poison pill, which means every other shareholder gets the power to buy an extra share at like 50% whatever discount they decide, which means it dilutes the person who's trying to take control of the company. And Twitter, the board, I think they're saying they want to do that. And ever since I think poison pill came into place, no one has ever actually gone to that limit where they hit that point where they can do the poison pill thing. So right now, the board is fighting Elon. So either Elon says he has a plan B, he has a plan to actually acquire Twitter, or though this article says Apollo is either going to go against Elon bidding to acquire Twitter. I think last year they were trying to say something where they want to combine Yahoo with Twitter, and just like you said, Smokey, they own Yahoo. Yeah, just like that. Yahoo Finance and Twitter. So or they say they can just help Elon to acquire Twitter, help him to take majority control of it. I don't really know what's going to happen with this, but honestly, man, with all that's going on, I just hope that he does take control to see where he takes it. And that would be very interesting for me to see. And
yeah,
it's so funny. Donald is digital acquisitions dead though? The Donald Trump social media, I think it's just dead with all that's going on now.
Where the situation gets sticky for the board is that Elon's already trying to buy it at a premium over the current share price. So if Apollo gets involved and ups the bid even more, they're opening themselves up to a serious liability because the board owes a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the shareholders. So if they're not taking a deal that'll make the shareholders a lot of money because of their own, personal motivations, then they open themselves up to lawsuits. So with Elon was already offering a premium over the share price. If Apollo gets involved and offers even more, ups the bid, that puts more pressure on the board to take the deal. I just wanted to add that in there. Draco, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I read a couple articles, and I guess know your source, right? But I read a couple different articles, and one of them said that one board member on the Twitter board member has never even logged into Twitter. Another one has a profile and has like one tweet over the course of the several years that they've been on the board. So they're not even really like that involved. There's all just different types of negative sentiment type of stuff that I saw. But, with that being said, I also posted in in our chat one of these tweets from the real Kiyosaki. So, he was the one that I'm pretty sure, right, Myron? He's the one that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yep.
So he just posted, 6 hours ago, and he said, "I love Elon Musk. He turned on the lights, and now the rats and rodents are running from Twitter, and they're running for cover. And the reason why I even bring that up is because, maybe not just this specific example, but there's people in our society, or people in pop culture, or people in politics that make decisions that are making people angry because it's against whatever is common or status quo. And sometimes when you pay attention to those things, you start to realize things that maybe you didn't see before. Like, I've never been a huge fan of Twitter, but I mean, it was for, various reasons. And I'm just not a person that utilizes Twitter very often. But then when you start to see all these reactions when somebody tries to shake it up a little bit or try to purchase it, and and use it as a public company and all these other things that it's been known for, now you see all these people getting really upset about it, and you kind of wonder why is that happening. And there's other figures in politics that have done these same type of things, and in the past, for going into different positions and trying to make things a little bit different and give you a different perspective. And I think that it's very healthy to look at all different, topics with good perspectives, and to take in perspectives and different opinions from other people. And I don't think it's very good to survive in an echo chamber and not listen to different opinions. And it seems like this is really exposing a lot of that right now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like if Elon Musk does take over Twitter, I think it would be a lot more enjoyable platform for people, regardless of ideology or regardless of background, just because you'll have some more interesting discussions. And so I think that's why this is such a hot topic right now. We know that if he does take it over, Twitter's going to look drastically different. Maverick, what do you think?
Yeah, so I've been following along on some of his tweets, and he's been dropping nuggets left and right. And I love it. I mean, like, somebody posted something with, it's essentially the salaries of the individuals, and he said
Right.
the board salary will be $0 if my bid succeeds. So that's a $3 million a year savings right there.
Oh,
So
man.
Boom.
I mean, like, I love it. I love it. I mean, he really is. I feel like he's standing up for what he believes is right. And I think a lot of other people feel the same way. And I'm encouraged by it. I mean, even to the fact where, like, Bloomberg misrepresented his tweets and says Musk uses inverted smile emojis on 2017 about Twitter price. And so he just sent a couple inverted smile, crying, laughing emojis,
Right.
like, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's thoroughly enjoying this. And
Yeah.
I think we are too, following along, So I we talked about this in previous episodes, and I think everybody here knows where I stand, and I'm significantly encouraged by it. I think he's representing a feeling or an emotion or a belief that many people also align with, and most people aren't willing to stand up and take the risk, take the backlash, the criticism, but yet he's like right on the front lines doing what all of us are thinking. Not all, but many people are thinking it, and he's doing it. So I love it. I'm interested to see where this story goes, and I'm sure this is going to be a Netflix series in about
Yeah.
three years, regardless of what happens.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point, though. Like, anything that Elon Musk is getting involved with right now, like for the last several years, makes it more interesting, right? Like, if he's involved in crypto or Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever, Tesla, SpaceX, all the stuff he does, it's just fun and interesting to follow when he gets involved. So, like, from that perspective, now that he's involved in Twitter, right? Like, it's making it more fun, right? The only thing that I don't really like, there's rumors that he's going to try to push the whole Doge thing, and I'm like, I have nothing against Doge, but I don't think he should use the platform to push a specific cryptocurrency. But that's just my opinion.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what I was thinking. Is there a Doge play, or could there be a Doge bull run if he buys this? Because he does, one of the features that he's talked about doing is making Twitter an optional subscription model where you pay a few bucks a month and there's no advertisements at all. What if he accepted Dogecoin, though? Do you think he would accept Dogecoin, and would that move the market drastically for Doge?
Well, he's been dropping hints left and right. Like, I just put another one in the private chat. He did a tweet that showed a Shiba, dog or whatever, with a bunch of Easter eggs and everything next to him. So like, and he said Happy Easter. Like, or is he trolling the market? Because he is the ultimate troll.
What do you think that Easter egg photo meant?
I mean, they could be accepting Doge. Who knows, right?
Okay, nice.
Or maybe it's just he's doing that to get a rise out of people, right?
Yeah, it could be.
Hey, when I fell in love with Elon Musk was he did an interview with Joe Rogan, and he talked about inventing a legal flamethrower and selling them. And he created, and they sold like over 20,000 of these legal flamethrowers. I'm like, what has this guy not put his hands into? It's pretty incredible, honestly.
Yeah, that
He's
was
a cowboy.
great. He actually shot the flamethrower on the podcast, I think, too, didn't he?
Yep. He brought one. I think he gifted one to Joe Rogan, if I remember.
Nice.
It's crazy. I mean, crazy. The life he's lived,
Yeah. So yeah, we talk a lot about Twitter and Facebook. It is just fascinating to see, how Web 2 is trying to develop and evolve into Web 3. And I don't think it's going to go very well for Facebook. So this article shows that Meta, aka Facebook, is creating their own NFT platform, just like OpenSea. But what they're reporting here is that Meta wants a 50% cut of NFT sales. So if you buy and sell, or if you sell an NFT on OpenSea right now, it's going to be 2%, or 2.5% on OpenSea. If you sell an NFT on their biggest competitor, Looks Rare, they'll take a 2.5% cut. But Facebook wants to take a 50% cut or a 47.5% cut. I mean, this is just completely bonkers. What do you think the plan is? We'll start with you, Draco.
Well, I think this is funny. To me, like, this is comical. I don't think they meant this as a comical piece, but I think it's hilarious that Facebook thinks that they can get 50% of sale fees. That's ridiculous. I mean, I think that this is a failing, flopping, struggling company. They're trying to figure out their way. I think that they've been exposed over time for who they really are and what they truly stand for. I think people are realizing that slowly over time, just like right now, that's happening to Twitter, and more so for Facebook. And I think that companies that use this type of advertisement and they abuse their customers and they don't care about their users and they have no ethics, I think that this will continue to be a pattern with large companies like this, and it will be a detriment to them. And I don't see Meta or Facebook or whatever they want to call themselves, I don't see them being successful long term. I think that they're in a slow downward spiral. And there's no way to save them because they are who they are.
Yeah, and I don't want to take him for a complete idiot, but my only read on this is that he wants to eventually take a 20% fee. So he wants to come out and say, okay, we're going to take a 50% fee, let the outrage come, then say, okay, I listened to the people, it's going to be a 20% fee. But even if he was doing that, even if something like that is the plan, I mean, no one's going to even pay 20%. I can't see anybody paying over 10% when OpenSea is so established in the market already at 2.5%. I don't understand who their customer is going to be. And
yeah, so somebody that has $100,000 NFT project that they're trying to launch, they're going to give 50% of it to Meta, a multi-billion-dollar company. Get out of here.
Right, and then the buyer, if he ever wants to resell it, he's going to have to pay 50% to Facebook. So your NFT has to double up for you to just break even, right? I mean, it's crazy. Maverick, what do you think?
Yeah, you want me to FUD this too? This is absolutely absurd. I agree with everything Draco said. Failing business model. People don't trust it. Literally, the users are dropping off by the day. I mean, all I use it for essentially, it's the modern day Craigslist for me. I mean, just to be completely honest. So yeah, 50% is absurd, and I think, it's really sad. He's probably going to sell a lot of them. I mean, they probably will capture a big chunk of the market, which is sickening. But I think they may be successful in that because it's a trendy thing that many people don't have access to, or at least they don't realize they have access to NFTs, and so they're going to go, "Oh, I'm going to jump on board this bus," although they're really not jumping on board the NFT craze, right? They're jumping on whatever centralized version they're trying to create. So silly. I know I won't participate. I have a feeling that 99.9% of the crypto community won't either. And it's just going to be those other people out there losing money on useless artwork online with zero utility.
Yeah, do you think we're watching Web 2 in their death throes right now with between the Twitter story and this Facebook story? You know, are they kind of in their final gasp of survival, I guess?
I think we're a ways away from their complete failure. I do think they have too much money and they're able to continue to innovate, and they'll figure out a path, I'm sure. But the NFT space, I think they're barking up the wrong tree, especially with the communities that already exist and are
Yeah.
already educated and familiar with the purpose, intent, and what ownership really looks like.
Yeah, I can tell you from the video game scene. Just I follow a lot of video gamers on YouTube and stuff like that, and nobody really likes VR. Like it's a very small niche group of people that play video games are actually playing VR. So I don't know what Zuckerberg's going to do to keep his momentum going that he's had the last 20 years. But it'll be interesting to see. Myron, what are your thoughts?
Zuckerberg is like one of the most tone deaf guy out there, man. He had this little virtual meeting. I don't know if you guys remember that years ago when Puerto Rico had like a flooding, and he was like there with his avatar, like high fiving people in front of like flooded homes. And they got a lot of backlash for that. And now he's doing this like 40 cent. Like this is just insane tax, man. But I will be the other voice that say this, that I think Facebook one day will be very successful because they changed the name for a reason, because I think they saw that if they don't change the name, if they don't go this route of the metaverse, they will not survive as a company. I think right now, since with the social media and everything, if we do move to the space where people go get on the metaverse and start to dealing more with this Web3 things like that, Facebook is going to lose all of its users. So in order to prevent that from happening, they have to, I guess, first to get ahead of the trend, because I think they're one of the first big companies. If we talk about the FANG stocks, right, like Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, these different companies, I think they're one of the first to try to innovate. They did it by Oculus with the VR, like you guys were saying, but things like this is just like, come on, Zuck. First they tried to do Libra, which failed. Now they're trying to do NFTs, and this tag is too much, man. But I do think that long term, Facebook is probably gonna be okay. They still have a lot of control over their space, and a lot of people don't use Facebook, but hey, they own Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or does Google own Instagram?
Yeah, Draco, do you think Facebook's going to be able to survive 20 years from now? 10 years from now? 20 years is way too long.
I think that we're watching the beginning of all of that stuff, kind of crumbling down, and I guess what the real question here is, and this is kind of like maybe the bonus question that we can talk about, is are we going to learn from Web 2.0? And what I mean by that is, so far we have not learned from Web 2.0. Web 2.0 was Amazon. It had to be the best. It was the number one thing. Everybody had to use it. That was the retail website that everybody had to use, right? Same thing goes with Google. You had to use this search engine. Facebook, that's the social media platform. Twitter, that's the instant, feedback platform that you have. YouTube, you got to watch all your videos on YouTube. So now that we have this new Web 3.0 space that we're trying to, create, and specifically with crypto, we're still not learning. And I think that we need to encourage that versatility. There doesn't have to be just one option. For example, OpenSea, MetaMask, Coinbase. You got to have the best, NFT website. You got to have the best decentralized wallet. You got to have the best, on ramp for your fiat. So, the stable coin wars. Why can't we have multiple stable coins? So I think that we just have to get our mindset out of that. And can we do that? Can we get our mindset out of having one company being the best and have options? Do you guys think that that's possible with Web 3.0 or no?
Myron, what do you think?
Oh man, I don't know, because This
So we're
space
going
is
to
just
have the same problems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, centralization is somewhat good because you want there to be a town square where, like Twitter, ideally you'd have like a centralized place where everybody can come and talk. But yeah, what we don't want to see is one of these Web 2 people come into crypto and just kind of monopolize like a space like NFTs. That's kind of something we definitely don't want to see happen, and I don't think it will happen. I think they're going to have a hard time surviving over the long term. I mean, companies can die fast. Look at Enron in the early 2000s. That was too big to fail, right? Something like Facebook, it's already unpopular with Gen Zers, so they do got to come up with new ways to survive. I mean, as far as I know, right now, most of their profits are coming from selling people's data. Selling it to advertisers. If people stop using Facebook or aren't interacting with it, they're going to eventually go away. And so they got to find ways to keep people engaged, and so they want to get into crypto. They see crypto as the next way. Everybody's buying NFTs. Let's make an NFT platform, but they're so stupid that they think that they can get people to pay 47.5% to sell their NFTs on their platform. So
You may be right, Smokey, on the big brain plays though. They say, 47.5. With the backlash, we'll just do like 5%. And people be like, oh yeah, that's really good, man. But it's still pretty high.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I just don't want to underestimate him, But at the same time, I mean, look how he's made his money. He bought Oculus, and I doubt that's really making a profit right now. He stole the Facebook idea from those twins. If the movie's accurate at all, which
Oh
I
yeah,
think it is. So he
legal
hasn't
boss.
really, other than like stealing our data and selling it. He hasn't really had any genius ideas. He's not like Elon Musk where he's inventing all this cool stuff. He's always kind of just been kind of slimy and making money in nefarious ways that he hides from the public. When he has to actually present something to the public, like this NFT platform, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a disaster. Unless, it's a big brain play and he reduces it to 5% or something like that. But we'll see.
One thing that's always kind of eluded me, Smokey, is we live in a world of convenience. It seems like people gravitate towards the things that make their life easier, or access easier, or information easier to obtain. And when you think about like the metaverse, it's like, okay, I have an avatar. This guy walks down this block and walks into the Twitter world. I'm like, how in the world does that even work, right? Like, are people actually going to do this, or are they just going to type in twitter.com and go, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess I just haven't wrapped my head around how that really fits into the world that we live in. I mean, the real world. I still think that convenience is going to outweigh, the innovation of creating a digital world. So I could be wrong, but I don't envision myself or anybody honestly jumping on some sort of a platform with their avatar, traveling over to where they need to go, and then finally accessing whatever it is they want to access. So I think it's more of a gaming thing. If I had to envision it, I think like a gaming metaverse would be ideal, but like trying to incorporate like this virtual world just so you can walk down a New York block. I can get on these map apps and literally walk down the block and look at the actual buildings if I need to. So I don't know. Just thinking out
Well,
loud.
I
It's
think
hard for me to wrap.
one thing Maverick is like, instead of us sitting here, just staring at our screen right now doing this, we could put on the VR headsets. We could be potentially in outer space doing this show, looking at each other's avatars. I guess that's one use that they imagine. I think in the Facebook, one of the trailers is that they were doing meetings. Yeah, instead of doing the meetings through the Zoom or whatever, they have their own avatar 3D floating in space talking. So I guess that's the draw to it. I don't know how many people will go for that, but it could be funny, right? If we put it on right now and we're at some crazy place, we
I
can
mean,
have any
it's.
backgrounds we want.
I mean, it'd be funny if we dressed your cat up and put like a costume on her, but it's not practical for everyday use. You know what I mean? At least that's where my mind goes when I think metaverse.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we've said everything that needs to be said on this. We'll move on to the next one. So another DeFi hack. Most of the hacks are in DeFi. So Beanstalk is a flash loan protocol. A flash loan is when you borrow a large sum of stable coins without putting up any collateral. You use the money for whatever purpose you want, maybe to buy something, and then you return that loan to the original lender, all in a single block transaction. So this Beanstalk was a very popular DeFi flash loan protocol, and there was a $182 million hack. The article talks about how flash loan protocols are frequent targets for hackers. One big one was Cream Finance, which lost 130 million. Another one was Alpha Hamora, which lost 37 million. So my question is, what are your thoughts on the hack? Are flash loan protocols too dangerous to invest in just because they're such frequent targets? And what's your thoughts on just seeing all these hacks in DeFi? We see them all the time. We'll start with you, Maverick.
Yeah, so this wasn't a hack necessarily. It was definitely an exploit, kind of what we spoke to earlier. Somebody with intent, obviously, to drain the liquidity by gaining mass control of voting rights or whatever it is. It still boggles my mind how they can do it. But I mean, literally just a few days prior to Beanstalk, Elephant.money, the same exact thing happened to. And so, we pay close attention to the market. We look around and we're in private groups with individuals, and it really hurts to see people negatively impacted by these things, and it definitely is a black eye in the DeFi space because, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are supposed to be more of like a stable coin type protocol, correct? I mean,
Yep.
the rewards are supposed to be reasonable in retrospect to what we're used to in the DeFi world. And these protocols typically have a much higher degree of confidence by the communities. So to see this happen, it's like I just see people completely having to rethink their whole plan, and some people having to start over, right? Because they've lost a large nest egg. So more so than anything, it saddens me. I really hope that these last few that we've witnessed and talked about change the way these developers think, because we're seeing more people doxing. We're seeing protocols trying to do the right thing ahead of time. But this is just one more element being exposed. It's not just about the audit, right? The audit isn't necessarily geared just specifically towards security. Well, maybe it should be. Maybe security should be an emphasis as well as the standard audit protocols. So yeah, don't know how to feel about it. Just a sombering week after seeing all the people that have lost money in the space.
I thought the point of the audits were to check how likely it was to get hacked or exploited.
Yeah, I read an interesting little piece on Twitter the other day after the elephant hack, and they were kind of highlighting how security isn't necessarily like a knowledgeable pillar of a lot of these. They're looking for hacks, not necessarily exploits in all these codes. And I mean, you could go and read through some of the statements from the companies that audited after the fact these hacks, and it's clear they're admitting to, yeah, there's a security concern that we need to be more cognizant of. So,
all right, Myron, what's your thoughts on this?
So I have to correct myself. I said the $1 billion flash loan was related to Axiomfinity. It wasn't. It's for Beanstalk. It's for this actually.
yeah.
So what they did is actually borrowed close to 1 billion to get 67% of voting power in the project. And with this, they approved the execution of a code that transferred the asset into their own wallet. So this is something that shouldn't have happened at all. But this is also, when you create a project like this, your focus is not on all the exploits that people could do with it. But I guess, this is probably a good lesson for the future projects to learn from. And the thing is, it's extremely rough for this situation because a lot of people invested into this, just like Maverick, you're saying. This is a stable coin. It's supposed to be one of the safer projects. It's not a degen play. It's not where you're putting money into this and you get 100x or whatever. So people put this as a safer play, so people are willing to put a bigger percentage of the portfolio into it. and it just turns out, a hacker exploit, and now they pretty much lost everything. And I don't think this is recoverable. It's a lot of money for a small project like this, and it's just extremely sad. I think for this, I think and I don't want to throw, um, I guess, suspicions or whatever, but the thing is, a lot of things like this, you kind of worry, right? If the devs had anything to do with it. I don't think they do in this project specifically. But man, this space there's so many hacks in the recent days where you're just like, it, are the devs really, I guess, like I said before, they really didn't think about their work. I'm scared is that a lot of devs, maybe they're purposely incompetent to be able to do do some exploit like this. But all in all, I feel bad for the people who lost money in this, and this maybe just shows you that we do have to somewhat diversify in this space. But it's extremely tough too, because when you diversify too much, you're missing a lot of, I think, the big gains in this space. There's arguments both ways. I guess if you have small port, you kind of have to go risky. But man, this is I think a lot of people lost on Twitter. Some of the people that we know lost a lot of money, and it's just feel bad for them.
Yeah, this one, it says the protocol's creators self-doxed after the hack just to sort of prove that they were not involved in that.
Yeah, I don't think they are. I think it's a decent protocol. I'm not I wasn't involved into it, but it's extremely sad.
So are these flash loan protocols more susceptible to exploits just because somebody can take the loan out and do something creative that you couldn't do in another protocol?
Yeah,
Do something creative
but
with the flash loan to exploit the protocol? Is that why you see it happen more often with these flash loans?
I mean, it's really complicated because we talked about this with the Bored Apes, where the guy bought like a couple with a flash loan on the same block, returned it, and did like all these claimed everything. So there's probably a use for these flash loans. But of course, now, with these recent hacks, you're seeing yeah, just like you said, people are using these very creatively in the wrong ways.
Draco, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, my thought on this is I think this is again another example that we are in the wild wild west. And when when we say that, what does that mean, right? What does the wild west mean? Well, the Wild West was, people were moving westward, right, during the Great Expansion of the United States, and they were grabbing what they could, and that meant that they were trying to grab land. They were going gold mining, right? There was boom towns where people were mining for gold. There was literally stagecoaches that were being robbed, banks that were being robbed, people going inside of bars and robbing bars and all types of stuff. It was like a lawless land, and anything went. And then it took time for that to catch up. There was not a lot of law and order, and there wasn't a lot of rules that had caught up with that time. And over time, things kind of caught up. The Pinkertons started doing investigations. Wells Fargo had stagecoaches that were armored, and they would hire people to protect those stagecoaches so they couldn't get robbed. The U.S. Marshals, started coming around and hunting people down from state to state so that people would be, held accountable for their actions. So over time, things evolved to kind of catch up with what was going on. And I think that's what we're witnessing. We're witnessing a time where things are going so fast that the rules and the regulations and the security and all these different types of things haven't caught up. But at the same time, the retailers and to include the people that are creating this stuff, the programmers, haven't caught up to all the exploits. They're not aware of them all yet. And we're not aware of all of the security risks that are out there, right? Again, just like you just said, Maverick was saying that, wasn't this something that was dealing with stable coins? Shouldn't that be a little bit more secure? Well, now we know through experience that these flash loans have inherent risk. We wouldn't have known that without going through these types of events. So I think that this is an important time for crypto to learn about all of these pitfalls and all of these events to make us better in general. And I think that also that shows what the importance of security is. When you have trillions of dollars floating around, people are going to come up with innovative ways to try to take it if you're not careful. So that goes, all the way from the retail investor all the way up to the developers.
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty good. Is there any other topics you guys want to touch on tonight?
Can't throw anyone. Safe Moon. So Coffee made a video today about Safe Moon. I don't know if you guys watched it, but man, I watched it. I feel like I got scammed out Safe Moon.
I didn't watch the video, but I read some of the points to it, and it sounds like there's some compelling evidence that Safe Moon isn't as good of a project as they try to make it out to be.
They forked the project that rugged, and the guy is basically saying that whenever you sell a Safe Moon, a percentage of this goes back to the protocol for liquidity pool. But Coffee found out that wasn't exactly happening, and they list on one of the exchanges instead of them exchange adding the 5% to the protocol, the exchange pretty much whatever the transaction happened on the exchange, they take the 5% and they send it to the Safe Moon wallet. And but Coffee basically was just saying that whatever funds and millions of dollars that got sent there never got added back to liquidity pool, and they have no plan. They were just copying random projects and things like that. And Coffee is I watch all his videos. He makes really, really good I think these in-depth breakdowns of scams and things like that. But after watching this, I bought Safe Moon. Honestly, when I bought it, I had no idea what Safe Moon was even supposed to do. All I knew was it's going up like crazy, and I bought some. But the thing is, I got scammed. I'm over 90% down, and the guy I think cashed out over $10 million.
Oh wow, he's got a documentary, huh? That's pretty.
He has another video coming where he's talking to one of the main players. So this is a series that he's doing.
So this was a pretty serious scam, huh? They're in the U.S., I believe, aren't they?
They're under investigation by I think FBI or something. Or the FBI is talking about the investigation.
Yeah, no, the FBI is definitely investigating them right now, Myra, and that was already stated. And I believe his next video is going to feature probably the most profound figure of that group, and that was Papa. He actually had some little clips of him and Papa.
Maverick, did you keep up with Safe Moon? Actually read about it and things like that. Honestly, when I bought, I don't know anything. I still don't know much about it until I watched the video today.
I did. I kept up with it for a while. So what he kind of exposed, again, learning curves. I think now the protocols would have a much more difficult time of executing. But it's they got in a time where people really weren't that educated in, multi-sigs and locking liquidity. And they suckered so many millions of people into buying this token. And really, there was no security protocols when it comes to keeping their funds safe and, people not being able to touch liquidity. In fact, they tracked back, I think, the top three, which was, I think Kyle was one of them, Crony, and then Papa. Each they could point at over $10 million worth of exploits potentially
to the moon.
So, yeah, obviously we don't know the whole truth, right? This is one man's take on it, but it's very interesting and compelling evidence.
I love
there was a migration.
Look at this true believer right here. He's calling the video FUD. You always have people.
Dude, some people are just, they're just on that hopium because they overinvested and they have to have it work, man.
Don't FUD my bags, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's funny. After you sent us that video earlier today, Myra and I watched it, and on Twitter I saw that there was a Twitter Spaces open for Safe Moon, and I jumped in for a second just to listen, and it was a bunch of the Safe Moon army talking about how this wasn't true. So it was pretty interesting, man. It's pretty crazy how it could be so divisive when you show them the actual wallets and the movements. I don't know how you could argue that, but
there's a saying that says it's harder to get people to believe they're wrong than to fool a person. I'm not quoting exactly right. It's easier to fool a person than to have them believe they're wrong. So they're believing that they made this investment. They think it's a good investment. They're hoping. Basically, right now it's all hopium, and basically whatever that's contrary to their beliefs, rather than actually taking it and examining it. They just say, oh, it's not true, it's false, or whatever it is. I think whatever you believe in this world, not just with crypto, like your actual stance, you must be able to have a reason why you believe it. If you get like immediately upset, like if I say, Draco, your favorite bourbon is trash, and you just get like so emotional, things like that, then it's like, okay, so this shows something about that's not exactly right. If you say something, if you really like something, you really believe something, you should be able to stand up for it. And if the argument is just like, oh, everything Coffee said is just a lie, well, that's not really an argument. You're just attacking the character. So if they can show with the good evidence where the wallet transfers are not legit, this and that, it's just, but they're not able to. I don't think. There's also, I want to mention real quick, there was a migration. I still haven't migrated my SafeMoon. I think, well, right now I'm just gonna assume it's 100% loss for me. I'm not gonna do anything with it. But the thing is, when people migrate it, if you do it wrong, you lose all your SafeMoon. And they said the value lost by people doing the migration is like $100 million, and that money didn't disappear. The money went back into the liquidity pool, which means the development team.
Yeah, I don't see how it's so hard. I mean, I guess when you're in DeFi, it's like not surprising at all when something's a scam, So it's always fun to see these people who will stick up for the protocol to the very end. It's like, is it really that much of a reach that a crypto project might be a scam? But isn't Shiba a hard fork of SafeMoon, or? I thought Shiba came from SafeMoon. Shiba Inu came right after SafeMoon, and it was kind of the same.
I think Shiba actually has a legitimate use to it with a sheep swap. I know I never used it, but I think it's not just straight up, useless.
Here we go. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember, when I was at WrestleMania 37 last year, SafeMoon, everybody was talking about SafeMoon. So it's one of those coins that really kind of took the country by storm as far as crypto goes.
Yeah.
I think it had its moment and it fizzled out.
Yeah, I actually learned how to use a decentralized exchange to buy SafeMoon. So I was in it for a little while. And I was like, okay, I got to learn how to use a DEX. I used Pancake Swap.
Yep.
It was my first purchase. The first time
Me
I used
too.
a DEX was for SafeMoon. So at least some good came out of it,
Yeah, now I know if I have to use a weird DEX and download a different wallet like Trust Wallet and go through all these steps and like put 200% slippage and make sure you rub the head of a leprechaun so that you can like buy a token. Maybe you don't want to buy. I'm just saying, consider what you're doing with yourself.
Yeah.
SafeMoon is not safe. It's not mooning.
What's wrong with this? Is false advertisement.
Oh man.
Well, I think that's it. That's a good one to end on for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back on Thursday. It was great being with the community again. And Smoky Mountain here signing out. Do you guys want to say your goodbyes? Parting words?
Goodbye, everybody. I love you.
Good night,
have a great night.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.